Thanks so much for being here tonight. I want to give a big shout out and to Highs and Lows for having me here. It's a really cool thing for the city to have not only such talented producers that are from here, but to be able to pick their brains for the next hour or so is a big blessing, I think. And if you're a creative yourself, then you understand how much that means to us. But a couple housekeeping things. Refreshments and nibbles are available as you've seen, so please help yourselves. The bathroom, if anyone needs, is located at the back towards the right. And the structure of tonight's talk will have a Q&A section at the end. So if you have any questions, save them to the end and then we'll get straight to it. You're probably wondering, if you don't know who I am, who is this guy talking to me right now? My name is Mowgli. I'm a DJ/producer, radio host, and event curator here in Perth. I'm part of a radio collective called Cloud Waves on RTR FM. And I've hosted multiple interviews with lots of local and international acts, some of which are actually here tonight. I also run an event here called The Hive, and I co-founded a collective called Curfew. And I can go on and on about the stuff that I've done, but we're not here for me tonight. So, FNZ, also known as Fnatic and Zach, are an Australian record production duo from Perth, Western Australia. They formed in 2009 and signed to Jim Johnson's label, Rebel Rock Entertainment, the following year. The decade following their signing, they received credits on his productions and have since independently expanded their work by the 2020s. Their list of credits is remarkable, with a comprehensive list of R&B and hip-hop acts, including, this is long, so stick with me, Kanye West, Drake, Kendrick Lamar, A$AP Rocky, Chris Brown, Denzel Curry, J. Cole, The Kid Laroi, 1-4, Future, Pusha T, Travis Scott, Young Thug, Bryson Tiller, and many more. Please welcome FNZ. How was the intro?
That was beautiful. That was really good.
Thank you, Wikipedia.
You got through that list quick.
There's plenty more on there, actually. If you go to the Wikipedia page, you scroll for like 5 minutes. So just to give a bit of context to you guys, talk to me more about your origin story and then how you guys got started into music, like individually and then as a duo as well.
So for me, with making beats, one of my brother's friends, when I was in high school, introduced me to Fruity Loops. FL, which is like a pretty popular, music production program. And I just started using it and I was quite drawn to it. A lot of my friends were rapping and I felt, at that time I was like, you know what, I could never be a rapper, this is silly, you know what I mean? But I enjoyed the music, but I was like, let me try the production stuff. And I tried to get a lot of my friends into it and all that, and a lot of them did it for a little bit and then they kind of stopped or whatever, but I just kept going with it. And yeah, that's it, man. Just kept rolling from there. And
so you started on Fruity Loops and you still continue on Fruity Loops?
No. We both use Ableton now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And what about yourself?
Kind of similar story. I mean, I grew up when I was around, 11, 12 years old. My cousin David introduced me to hip-hop music, like specifically underground, like 90s, Tribe Called Quest, Gangsta, that type of stuff. And then I started being fascinated with, I was like, how are these songs being made? Like, specifically, how are the beats being made, So I started researching and, like, asking people questions and, like, going online and trying to, like, meet people with similar backgrounds and then finding out about the whole culture of production and record digging and samples and flipping things like that, And I had a list of producers that I was, like, grew up as a fan of, And then just got a FL Studio when I think I was around 13 years old, and then started like emulating, trying to make what I heard, as being a fan of the music and that. And then I got an MPC 2000 when I was 15, and I was like listening to certain songs, whatever, and I would go and get the records that the producer had used to create that song, and then go sample it and try and recreate it,
So would you say that your background is primarily in sampling?
I would say it's a mix between the two. It started off that way, but then a lot of the success that we've had with artists like Drake, J. Cole, A$AP Rocky, even, The Kid Laroi, a lot of it being like, the big hits and come from like samples, So, but we delve in both sides in that.
Cool.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet?
Through a mutual friend who was actually, ended up being our manager for like a couple of years as well, this guy Joel. He knew both of us, and he knew we both made music, and he was like, "You guys should work together."
We actually met at an Applecross party, though.
Oh yeah,
I think, yeah, we did.
Before,
yeah, when we were,
before that.
I think like 13 years old initially, but like we didn't really click. We actually we didn't become like.
Well, we weren't
friends.
mates. We just like we met real quick, and we were like, I was like,
there was a
"Fuck this
beef,
guy."
wasn't there?
Yeah,
There was a
yeah,
beef.
yeah.
No, there was no beef. But yeah, it wasn't until later then we became close friends and then started making music together, literally at my mum's house in East Fremantle.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just back then as well. Like producing wasn't as common, you know what I mean? So it's like there wasn't many people making beats and stuff.
It wasn't the popular kid thing to do
so you
at
just
all.
knew about each other. Like, I know that guy. You know, he makes beats and whatever.
Yeah.
And how long ago was this approximately?
This is what 2005, 6, around there.
Yeah, 2008 maybe we started working together.
Yeah.
2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what was the process from working individually and then meeting as friends and then kind of coming together as a duo and being like, you know what, we're going to move forward as a duo versus individual production credits and stuff?
I think it kind of came naturally. We were set up basically at my mum's house in East Fremantle in the studio. Just sitting there, we had had all the equipment that we needed and everything to make beats. We had, was it a Korg Triton? Yeah. Keyboard, computer, this and that, everything set up. And then we were just like, whenever he had time, like spare time from working his full-time job, and I had time from my full-time job, on the weekend or late night, whatever, would like get together and make beats, you know?
Right.
And I think it progressively became an organic thing where like we work really well together, you know? And Zach was working with other people in Perth and I was doing the same, but there was just, when we came together, it felt like Voltron. And I think we,
love that.
Yeah, both literally shared the same interest of like, we love being in Perth and learning and everything here, but we feel like our sights are set on the US, like going into America at some point, you know? So.
Do you find that the working as a duo has affected your view in terms of collaborative processing? Because there's like two of you that have to be in the studio together and then an artist or other people that would be helping with the tune. Like, has that changed your view in terms of being like more open to collabs, or you kind of more closed off to being like, no, we'll handle this between ourselves, or?
Yeah, I almost don't know how people make music by themselves at this point, because like you can go so crazy, like working on an idea, you don't know if it's good or not sometimes, you just in your own little world. So having someone to bounce ideas off is so helpful. You know, it's the best, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, you literally can go crazy. Like you could work on something for 4 or 5 hours on your own and you're like, am I losing my mind? Is this good? You show it to your friend or your collaborative partner or whoever it is and they're like, dude, don't delete this shit. Like this is insane, you know? This is a crazy idea, so.
Do you find your process of giving like honest feedback to one another about how good or bad a project is has become a bit more transparent in the last few years, or was it always really just transparent? Like
Between us?
Yeah, were you able to kind of go to one another and be like, that beat's kind of trash?
No, it's always been honest, man. Like super honest, dude. Like all we care about is making the best idea possible.
Sure.
So, sometimes like I might have an idea, right? And I'll be like, I don't know, is this good or what? And he'll be like, that's fucking sick. Like, definitely we should work on that. Or he'll be like, no, it's trash.
Okay.
And the other way around as well, like it's always honest.
Yeah.
We don't really care. We're not going to get offended. We're going to be like, oh, man.
Yeah, and then we go out for a drink that night. It's like, oh, really? That's how you felt about the beat earlier? It's like, we're literally on the same page. We want the best thing possible, you know? And like whoever out of the two of us, if the idea comes from, it doesn't matter. We don't talk about it like, oh, I did that one or you did that one. It's like, that's it, because we work on it together anyway, So, and then I'll have an idea that I think is cool, play it for him, and then he has a whole other idea of what to do with it that I wouldn't have thought, So
you're able to kind of work off one another's energy quite well and like create something out of bouncing it with one another.
For
really.
sure, yeah. And then even if there's something that we don't necessarily both agree on, like maybe I'll think something is good, and he'll be like, I'm not really feeling it. I'll be like, give me 10 minutes to fuck with it, and then after 10 minutes, either we'll both love it, or we'll both be like, nah. I'll be like, you were right, this is shit. Or he'll be like, nah, this is fucking awesome. Like,
yeah, it's happened for sure. Because I feel like I'm the little jittery, jumpy, impatient man. And Zach's more like patient. He can be like spending time on something, and I'll be like pacing around the room being like, let's go to the next thing. And he's like, just give me 10 minutes, and then give him 10 minutes, then I'm like, oh, fuck, that's crazy. That's really good.
Oh, nice.
Like, so.
Good that you waited out that 10 minutes.
Yeah. Or whatever it is, whatever time it is. Like, I think it's a good contrast between the two of us that works great. So.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, you guys started here and made your way to the States about 2010, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
Give us an idea of the landscape of what the Perth industry was like at that time. it's being obviously everyone who is a creative here feels like we're very isolated from the rest of the world. But back then, before like really social media and everything, probably felt a bit more like that than it does now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was pretty crazy because I guess like Instagram wasn't even a thing at that point, and I guess a lot of these social platforms weren't around. So I guess like what we had used around that time was MySpace.
Cool.
Yeah, which they were actually delving that far back, and that's what we had used for networking and like messaging like-minded producers or artists in the US. So that was kind of our thing at that time, and I think. Yeah, I don't know. I think we just I'm trying to think of the landscape at that time in Perth. I think it was similar to when we both started making beats in the early 2000s before we like got together, and I think we both were just like, the scene is awesome, it's really dope, but if we really want to grow, we're gonna have to make that jump and make that that jump over there.
There wasn't a lot going on.
Yeah, there wasn't.
I mean, in terms of artists popping off, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's like there's a lot more happening overseas,
And do you still find that's the case now, as comparative?
Yeah, I think so. Like for the artists that we want to work with and stuff. I mean, Perth isn't like a hub.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there's a
It's
scene.
cool. It's a cool scene for sure. Yeah.
A scene growing and coming together, and obviously like a lot more collaborators, like producers, and it's cool as well to get hit on Instagram from other producers that are a lot younger on Instagram and being like, oh man, I'm like, I do this and do that, whatever. And it's like, it's cool to see that it's become a lot more of a thing these days, because I guess just at that time it wasn't really like that, and it's awesome to see that music is growing and thriving. So
yeah, cool. And so I mentioned before that you guys got signed to Jim Johnson's label.
Yep.
So how did that come about? Like, how did he get in touch? Was it all through MySpace and everything, or?
Yeah, so I guess, it's a long story, but I'll try and cut it down as much as I can. But basically, a friend of ours at the time, Joel, he had a radio show on a radio station here called Groove FM.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Shout out Groove FM. L
yeah.
Street, I know you're in here somewhere as well.
Yeah, shout out L Street. That was a legendary station at the time. Me and my cousin had a radio show on there playing underground hip-hop every Thursday night. And basically, so he would do a lot of interviews on the phone with producers from the US. A lot of like really, either big up-and-coming producers from America, and one of them was Jim Johnson.
Cool.
And that was the hustle mentality Joel had. He was basically like, oh man, I'll keep hitting him until I can get them on the phone. So he did an interview with Jim for his radio show, but then at the end was basically like, oh, I've got a couple of friends that I help manage and work with. Can I send you some of their music? And he was like, yeah, of course. Like, man, send some stuff over. And, we're at that point, we thought our shit sounded like fucking amazing. We're like, oh my God, it sounds just like Timbaland or Kanye or whatever. But in hindsight, it didn't sound any remotely close.
Were you trying to recreate a particular sound at that time, or were you trying to come up with a new sort of sound? Or?
I think we like listening. If I was to listen back to the stuff we were doing at the time, it definitely had a lot of influences from what was going on at the time.
Sure.
And it wasn't until years later when we found our own pocket and groove and sound and everything, So I think we were still experimenting and figuring it out. And then basically. He spoke to Jim over the phone, and at the end he was like, look, I've got these guys, this and that, whatever. He sent some music to Jim, and Jim got really excited. He was like, man, these guys are really good. They're only, what are they, early 20s, or I think we're 21 years old at the time. And he was like, keep sending me some stuff. And then all of a sudden he was like, I really want to sign these guys. And we just got like, we're over the moon about it, because we're telling all of our friends in Perth at every party we went to, like, we're going to America, we're moving, like, we're leaving soon or whatever. And I think told too many people before it actually happened, and then like as time went on, Jim started winning. Like I think he'd already at that point won a Grammy, but he was starting to get really, really big, producing for T.I. and like Ludacris and Beyonce and everything. So he had his own career to worry about over there. But then basically, it got to a point where he went ghost because he was so busy. So we waited. It must have been around like a year. A year went past, and we're like, you know what? Like we know he's in Miami. Let's just pack our bags and book like a ticket to go to Miami all the way from Perth. So we literally booked our flights, booked a 3-month stay over there, and we flew all the way to Miami, and then we basically called his friend because we didn't have Jim's real number. So we called his friend and told him, like, look, can you tell Jim Johnson we're in Miami? And he told him, and then Jim just like got on the phone losing his mind. He's like, you guys flew all the way to Miami from Perth or whatever? Like, that's crazy. Like, I respect that. I love that,
It is a pretty big risk though, right?
Yeah, it was, to fly from Perth to Miami is 3 flights, so, and it's like around 30 hours to get there, like, 28, 29 hours. So, and we did that not knowing that we were going to get signed or not knowing he would want to meet with us, but we're like, let's try and take grasp of this opportunity and show them that we really fucking care and that we like live, breathe, and die for this shit, you know? So
Taking such a large leap of faith, did that sort of like influence you to do similar sort of large leaps of faith to get to the point that you are now and working with certain artists?
yeah, definitely. Like I think that didn't go away like years to come. It was like taking risks, like traveling to certain places and trying to pull up on certain artists to basically be like, hey, listen to our shit, you know? So yeah.
Wow, nice. So, you know, you said you were using the MySpace and stuff back then to kind of collaborate and communicate with other producers. Do you think that it's essential nowadays for a producer to have like a social media presence? Do you, like, you know, right now, do you think it's really necessary for them to create a certain level of hype around themselves to then, you know, invite certain artists to work with you? Do you need to have a certain brand behind you?
I don't know if it's essential, but like why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Like it's a tool that you can use like anything else, and it is how a lot of people network these days. You know what I mean? Social media. So it's changed a lot. We had to fly, you know, across the world or whatever, but a lot of people these days don't even do that. You know, look, someone like OZ, he lives in Switzerland or whatever, and he's killing it. You know what I mean? Just he's out there. He's built his reputation. But what a lot of people don't know about him is he actually moved to Miami as well. In the early days and built his career up, and then he moved back.
Yeah.
So it's a combination, I think. But you know, you definitely use social media. You know what I mean? Like, why not?
I think this is the bonus of using social media. It's easier to access, like to hit people, you know, and like to hit up this person and reach out to them via DM and things like that. But then also it also unwinds it almost can make some people a bit lazy as well, because it's like, oh man, I'll just like keep sending them messages or whatever until they get it. But it's like sometimes you got to take that risk of flying to Melbourne or Sydney or to LA or Miami, whatever it is, to like actually take grasp of like whatever it is, you know, and like
there's
take that risk.
Certain difference that comes with sort of being in the context and the environment of the situation that's happening in a particular area, right? So if you're in LA or if you're in Miami or whatever, and you're in Hollywood and there's stuff happening and people are making music and stuff, do you find it's probably a bit more helpful to be in those environments to help get involved in those projects and those kind of things? Or
Yeah.
like versus being just like DMing, be like, yo, I've got this cool beat, here you go, maybe you can make it work for your next project.
Yeah, it helps a lot. And if you're only sending stuff, say you're just going to stay in Australia, and you're going to send like ideas to like another producer in the States or something, you're just so dependent on them. Maybe they'll use your stuff, maybe they won't use your stuff. You know, you have less control, you have less freedom, you know what I mean? It's like you're so dependent. But if you go out there and you can make your own moves and meet people, at least just go out there for a little, like, couple months and see what happens, you know? It's just a flight, do it.
Yeah, don't be scared to fly. And I think as well, meeting people in person is the face-to-face value of like, when someone gets to know you not through a phone and the computer, like in like person to person, it's like there's a different type of relationship, you know. And I think you can build better that way, and they'll remember you, and like, you know, I just think it goes a long way. And you know, and I guess just showing your personality and this and that, as opposed to just being everything's on the phone, you know. So yeah,
I guess it is actually a lot harder to showcase personality online. You know, people always complain you can't read tone through text messages and all that stuff, especially. So.
That's happened with us before. Like we talk to some people online, like producers, whatever, and like, man, they seem like an asshole. And then we meet them and we're like, oh, they're really nice. Like, because it's like the way of typing, you know? It's like
Yeah, fair. How have you found like the pros and cons of kind of being in that environment now, you know, almost like 15 years later? Like, what's it been like being in those environments and working with these artists like almost 15 years into the game now?
Yeah, like we still get so many opportunities just from being in LA, because we'll get hit by our publishing company and they'll be like, oh, Burner Boy wants to work with someone tonight, you know, and, you know, he's looking for producers to come to his house. Can you guys come? You know what I mean? And we'll just be like, yeah, we can go do that because we live there, you know. So those types of opportunities, you know, they only happen when you live there, you know. And it can be limiting if you're not there, you know. It's just how it is.
Especially, you know? When artists and producers that you work with are there, know you're there as well. You know, like A$AP Rocky could hit us and be like, come to my house to work tonight. But imagine if we're like, oh, sorry, man, we're not in LA at the moment. You know, it kind of like, damn, well, we could have made some crazy shit, you know? So it's just being around always, like, there's just something in the air, something happens from it, you know? So.
Yeah. So after moving to Miami, you were there for how long?
Was it 5-6 years?
Yeah, five or six.
Yeah.
5-6 years. And then was it straight from the go you were working with superstar artists, or did you have to work your way up? Or how was that process?
That would have been nice.
Nah. we were like proteges, kind of. Like we were just put in a corner in this kind of like closet studio.
Literally a closet studio, like a tiny little room.
And it was just like you guys are good, but you need to develop more,
Yeah.
So Jim gave us an opportunity, but he knew we weren't ready, and it took years. It took years of us being sort of just around, but just on the side, and then eventually he was like, all right, you guys are getting pretty good. Like, why don't you join me in some of these sessions, like with Rocky and like people like that? And that's when everything took off from there,
Yeah. It was an awesome time looking back on it. Like even that time, like, because we worked specifically out of a studio called Midnight Blue in Miami. Jim had the A room, which is like the main room of the studio, and he would have like Usher come through, Kelly Rowland, Scott Storch, Pharrell, like literally the biggest superstars at that time. And we're in the little closet room, but the cool thing was we got to go in and watch Jim for a little bit when he works with these artists, so that was like the inspiring part for us, And then we go back to our little closet and keep working and shit, Like I'll never forget, we're in the room making a beat, and then the door opens and it's like Pharrell just staying there, and we're like, and he was literally just like bopping his head. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he walked out of the room, and we're like, holy shit, was that? Oh my God.
He was like, I like that shit.
Yeah. And even just to hear that, like, and to see his face was like more motivation to keep going, And then like Zach said, it wasn't to a few years when Jim was like, all right, it's time. You guys can come in the main room now. So
are you guys still quite close to Jim, I assume?
Yeah, we're still definitely cool with Jim. Like, he's a legend. And he gave us an opportunity, so yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, he'll always be our big brother, so.
Yeah. So you really had to pay your dues to get to the point where you were able to work with notable artists.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it worked. Like those first few years in Miami, it was like getting our chops up and that, and it wasn't literally specifically. I remember when we're working at his studio house, when Young Jeezy was working in the main room with Jim, and then we were working in the smaller room, and Young Jeezy like walked by and he was like, "Man, that shit sounds crazy!" Like open the door, whatever, and we're like, "Whoa, they like this beat," and we purposely when we're in the small room, we would turn it really loud. We would do that all the time. Do you remember?
Yeah.
So then that way, the main artist, like if it's Usher, whoever's like, hears what's going on. Because if a creative artist wants to hear whatever's going on in the studio, whatever room, no matter who's making it, So, but yeah, that was the turning point when Jim was like, yeah, you got to work in the main room now. And then that led to around that time when A$AP Rocky signed his first major deal, and he wanted to work with Jim, and we happened to be Jim's like right-hand producers at that time. So that started that relationship as well.
Do you have any tips for any producers right now looking to get like noticed by people like Jim, or create like someone who's a mentor role? How would they kind of go about finding someone like that in their life? Like, how would someone here find their Jim?
I mean, just keep making really, really crazy stuff. I mean, it's just different now because you might not necessarily need that situation. It's like you could just kind of figure your way out by networking and using Instagram, DMing people, and like just build up a reputation for making really good shit, and then it'll just happen organically. Everything will happen from there. If you have something that's like, if you're not making the craziest stuff, but you're DMing everyone or whatever, it's not going to work. You got to be making sure you're making really good stuff.
You got to have the heat, like you got to have the crazy shit. Because like Zach said, crazy shit always finds a way out, So, and even I just feel like with the music industry at this point, people are more accepting for like, if something sounds crazy, they don't care who made it. I feel like back then maybe it was a little bit different. It was like, oh, it's got to be a Scott Storch beat, or it's got to be this person's beat or whatever. But I feel like now people really don't, like if it's a 15-year-old kid that made it that doesn't have a name, but it's insane, like that's all the artist like cares about, Like if it sounds fucking amazing. So
that's actually really good to hear, right? Because that means that you don't have to have like a particular brand to then get picked up and your stuff be played in or used in a particular studio or an environment, because you could just be, as long as it sounds good.
It's more open now for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So you worked with obviously Jim Johnson for a while, and then 5-6 years you worked your way into things. What was the first record that really was it? The A$AP Rocky one? That was like the first like breakout notable sort of.
Yeah, well, I think when we produced Long Live A$AP with Jim, that was like when we felt like we were creating a sound that we felt really proud about, and we were like blending different really weird kind of creepy sounds and stuff and just doing different shit. Because I think around that time we were working with Jim on the other stuff, but it was like us kind of like helping Jim with his sound, or like kind of just like making stuff that was cool, but it didn't give us like give that purpose of like, oh, this shit's insane, you know.
Right.
And I think that was the first one that we did where we were like, man, this is really cool. And then we came back to Perth, and he was starting to blow up over here. A$AP Rocky was, even as an underground artist. But I think that was the exciting thing when we told friends of ours that we had produced that song. They were like, fuck, that shit's crazy, you guys did that.
Yeah.
Like, it's exciting because some of the other stuff, it just was, you know, we weren't too crazy excited about. So
that was the first record that you guys were really proud of?
I would say, for me.
Yeah, it was like the first start of like our sound starting to kind of emerge, because like Mike said before that, we were kind of just Jim's guys, you know, we were like his appendages, you know, so like we were helping him make his sound, but it wasn't our sound.
Right.
And this was the first time that an artist was coming to work with Jim, but we were almost more familiar, I think, with his sound than Jim was, and so he relied on us more to steer the session in a certain direction.
Well, that's cool because you kind of got a first-time chance to really lead the way.
Yeah. And it ended up being, you know, like a title track and crazy video and all this stuff. And it was awesome. And it's, you know, and we're still close with Rocky to this day. So
Yeah.
yeah.
When's the album coming out?
It's on him. Man.
Oh man, I think we're all excited for when that happens.
What was the inspiration to the sounds that came for that record in particular? Like, how was it leading to that whole process?
You mean in terms of that song or?
That song in particular.
You know what's pretty crazy? Like, remember when we found out we had that session that we're working with Jim and with A$AP Rocky? We had all these beats. This is literally how it happened. Like, we had about 15 beats prepared. Like, we went in, we're like, he's gonna choose this one, that one. He's gonna kill this one. It's gonna be crazy. And we literally went in the session, met him. He was the nicest guy ever. And then we started playing through the beats, and he was like, oh, these are cool. But he wasn't picking anything, and we're just kind of shitting ourselves a little bit because we're like, man, what the hell are we gonna do? We only got 15 beats we picked up for him. So. But then, we went through them, and he was like, oh, these are really cool. Like, I fuck with them. But we're all here. You know how to program drums. You play guitar. You do this. You do that, whatever. Let's just make something from scratch. Like, let's do that. And
so this beat was made with him in the studio from scratch?
Yeah, literally tailor-made on the spot with him.
That's
and,
cool.
And I think he appreciated that because in the past, like, producers would give him beats and that, but we're all like, let's do something together, you know? And it just literally, it was the first and only idea we did with him that day, in a span of like 7 or 8 hours, and that was Long Live A$AP, and it was crazy.
Did he have any sort of input into the production side of things as well?
Yeah, huge,
Oh, yeah.
huge.
Yep.
He's super involved. He doesn't just sit there. Like, he's like every little element, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he's,
I mean, even when we did LSD for A$AP Rocky, he was like sitting there behind the MPC with us. Like, we'd chopped up all these footstep sounds, and he was sitting there like helping us like hit it, because it was like, it's got to be this and that, and then, but he hears everything in his head, you know, so.
How much of a sort of control do you like to have over the beat when you're working in person with a producer? Because obviously like, the artist might come and be like, oh, I want this for this, but you might be like, oh, I don't like how this sounds. Like, are you willing to let go on certain things? And is it like a give and take thing when it comes to the beat itself? Because obviously the artist will be using it as them, right?
Of course.
But it is something that you've obviously made as well. So like, how do you work that around?
I think it can get tricky. I mean, there's been times before when we do a song with an artist and like we feel the beat should be this way because it sounds better with our ears and that, but then the artist wants it another way. And at the end of the day, we're like, we can try and push for what we believe in, but at the end of the day, the artist is putting their name on it and it's their song, you know? Although it is, you know, we're all part of it together, but they're the one that's gonna be touring for the rest of their life with that song and performing it on stage and this and that. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like a give and take, but we got to kind of like bend a little, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Is there any example that you can think of the top of your head that like was something of that nature? Where there was like a particular beat and it got altered quite a lot before it ended up becoming like on the record itself?
I could think more of like back in the day, some songs getting like the final mix of the song and then just hearing it when it was done or whatever. I was like, damn, it doesn't sound as good as it did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's definitely happened a few instances, but more so back in the day when like early days, you know? But I'm trying to think, is there any other?
I can't think of anything like that really off the top of my head. Because most of the time, most of the time it comes out where everyone's happy, honestly, because you work with an artist and they'll give their input and we'll definitely try it and be like, what do you think? And then but then if we don't like it, we'll be like, what do you think about this? And then usually if it's better, everyone knows like, oh yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Like it's not, I can't think of a time where we were like battling, you know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Is there a sort of like a delegation process that works between you, or is it kind of like less systematic and more organic? Like when you guys work as a duo, is there one person that's doing this, other person's doing that? Like how does that synergy work between you guys?
I mean, it's more organic, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of both do everything. Like back in the beginning, it was more separated because like I think we were sampling less, and then Mike was doing more drums. I was doing more of the like keys and melodic stuff. But nowadays we're both sampling so much and like just I don't know. It's like we both do everything.
Kind of, yeah. But Zach he is a beast on the piano and the keys and all that, and that's like a bit further out from what I can do. I'm also play by ear, but if I'm like chopping a sample, he'll know what chords to play over it. You know, if it's like this minor chord or this or blah blah, he already figures it out by ear. You know, and that I can't do. I just do by ear, but he just like nails it every time. You know, so. But we just kind of all over the place. But back then, I remember we used to have like our little station. It'd be like, I sit here and he sits there. It's like, you know, and this and that. But when we're in the room with an artist, we kind of just like jump around and bounce around and stuff. So
amazing. And do you have any particular systems and workflow on a day-to-day basis that you sort of like, okay, when I wake up, you know, get into the studio, and then today we're doing this, and then a couple hours later we're doing this, and a couple hours later we're doing that? Or is it just like idea? Like, how does it work for you guys?
Yeah, like on a regular day, if we don't have a session with an artist, we will literally just go to the studio at about 12 o'clock and we'll both have like samples that we found, you know, that we've been digging for. And we'll play them for each other and then be like, yeah, this is good, this is good, this is bad. And then make a big folder and then just start flipping them. And then we'll just do that all day, like just making loops and ideas and yeah, just making shit all day.
Yeah.
Make like 10 things in one day.
How does the digging process look like for samples?
Yeah.
Mostly online, you know, like SoundCloud, whatever.
These days, everything is on. There's stuff online that it's like that. It's insane. You know, you can find shit that people actually haven't sampled before. You know.
Yeah.
You just really got to know where to look for it and have the ear to find the little parts.
So where do you look for it?
Yeah. I mean, no, I mean literally everywhere. You know, like. Yeah. You're on SoundCloud, Bandcamp, YouTube,
yeah, like some
Spotify.
random person's Instagram and they got like 1,000 followers and they might put a little clip up or something.
Yeah, that's happened before a lot.
We'll be like, yeah, we'll take that and flip it. And
oh wow, cool.
Yeah, well, we don't care, like whatever.
Yeah. I mean, even Wait For You with the future Drake and Thames, that was like us scrolling through Instagram and then we saw the live performance of Thames singing the song. So.
Is that so? You've sampled the live performance from the Instagram thing, not from the
no.
actual
It was we then went on YouTube. It was like posted on Instagram, but then it was a live performance, and then we went to YouTube, quickly downloaded it, and then chopped it up. And
that's
stuff,
really interesting because like I've never really heard much live performance stuff being sampled before, really in music. Like,
yeah, but it's good actually because a lot of the times, you know, it'll be like a vocal and a guitar or a vocal and a piano. And it doesn't have drums in the way. It's cleaner. It's actually better.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's like a little hack.
As long as the performance is good, you know. So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So that's obviously when you don't have any sessions with artists and stuff look like. What does an average day-to-day look like for FNZ?
It changes. I'd say that's the average day. Just go to the studio and make ideas and like kind of build our little catalog that we've got. And then, yeah, like maybe one day out of the week, it'll be like, oh, you guys are booked in to go work with like Offset or something.
Sure.
You know? And then we'll meet him at whatever studio, and we'll always pick out like maybe 30 to 40 beats beforehand. Like we go prepared every time, you know.
And that happens last minute as well sometimes.
Last minute,
like
or whatever. Yeah.
Last month, on a Thursday night, we're both at home just working, chilling, or whatever, and then we get a message from Ashley, from Pulse, a publishing company they're a part of, and then basically. Yeah, she's like, Offset wants to have you guys come through tonight. Do you want to go see him? And we're like, all right, cool. And then like quickly getting ready and blah, blah. It's like just things can happen so last minute or planned out, you know? So, and sometimes some of the craziest things happen not planned, you know? It's
Do you have examples?
I would say, I mean, some could be on like, let's say Baby Keem just reaching out to us like and being like, can you come to the studio, come see me or whatever. And we're like, quickly get all of our ideas together and like drive all the way over to on the other side of LA to see him, you know. So
when you have like certain artists, you know, obviously do the reach out and they're all like, you know, your publisher company just reaches out and they're like, hey, this artist want to work with you. Do you take a particular like reference to their music and be like, oh, they might like this because I've heard this before? Or how does that process of picking out 30, 40 beats look like for you guys?
I think we just use our ears and imagine what really we want to hear them on, you know? I think we'll find a mix of stuff of like, okay, this might have a similar vibe to stuff they've done, but then also put some other shit in there because we're like, well, what haven't they done and what do we feel like they should try or do, you know?
So you have some sort of like input into the evolution of them as an artist as well.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, sometimes they'll give direction, and sometimes it makes no sense as well. Like sometimes it'll be like their A&R will be like they're going for this sound, and we'll be like, that, I don't know, like we'll do that. We'll put some aside that are like that, but then we'll also bring like the solid ones that we're like, we know this will work, even if it's not in line with what they've said they want. They usually gravitate towards that anyway.
Yeah. That has happened a lot of times before where an A&R will be like, oh, the artist, they want this and that, whatever. And then we go there and meet the artist and they do not want that at all. Yeah, we'll play it for them and they're just like, eh.
Is that just like the label coming in just saying we want them to sound like this?
Yeah,
exactly. It's the label trying to have their input and creative kind of part on it. But, at the end of the day, we're servicing and working with the artist and the creative, So, but, we'll listen to the A&R and be like, yeah, cool, sounds good, blah, blah. And then go straight to the artist and then do what we feel works,
Do you find there's a lot of people in the studio at the same time when you guys are creating with artists? Like when you rock up, is it like A&R's there, label rep is there, is like a bunch of different people that are like trying to give creative
Sometimes,
input?
yeah. Like we recently, are we allowed to talk about the cake pop? Well, maybe not. But sometimes.
Yeah, well, here's an example. Like, sometimes we'll be, like, let's say, for an example, when we went, the first time we got Meet Baby Keem, it was just like us, him, and his producer, Scott Bridgeway. And then that was the whole night. And then Kendrick popped in for like 5 minutes out of the night randomly. And that was literally the only people in the room the whole night, But then when we worked with A$AP Rocky, like, years ago when we were working on Testing and we did Tony Tone, he recorded like some of the roughs in the room, and there must have been like 30 plus people in there, and that was more than usual because it was intense. But there was like so many people in there,
Do you ever have like the rapper moments when you like go to the studio and there's like 500 people there and they're just like the homies and like people that do not contribute to the song
the
at
game,
all?
the game set, yeah.
Oh, really?
Last year we were, we went to I think it was the year before last. We went to Chalice Studios in Los Angeles, and the game was working on his album with Kanye. Like, Kanye was helping me at the time, and we went to go see Hit Boy, and we went to go see him, and there was literally about like 50 people plus in the room. There was like, Kanye was in the back getting a haircut. There was like people drinking, like, it was crazy.
Apparently it was like that all week, every night or something.
Yeah.
It's just how he likes to have his sessions. He likes to have a party, basically, and it's just like fun, So that's how they do it.
Is it disruptive to your process at all?
Honestly, we didn't end up even playing any beats. I don't know what. We didn't.
We actually didn't. Yeah, it was too much of a mess to happen.
We just chilled for a bit and we're like, this is kind of wild, so we left.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But honestly, for us personally, like, we way prefer when there's less people in the room. It's like, as long as, like, just the creatives in there. If it's a writer, a producer, or an artist, and that, just like have them in the room, And if someone is in there, just like chill in the back and try not to be too overbearing it, So, but yeah, I think that's always the way. Yeah. But there has been some sessions, I don't remember off top specifically, but we work with an artist and then their lawyer, I won't say the name, but the lawyer, they had their lawyer in the back, their manager, like everybody from their team or whatever, and it was just like almost awkward, It was like you've got everybody here, really, for a session.
Were they trying to contribute or were they just standing around?
No, they're just standing around yapping and this and that, whatever, and they were talking so loud, like we couldn't figure out what was going on in the room, So, yeah. But then those are those situations where you got to kind of like take control of it and try and start getting people kicked out of the room. So,
right.
Yeah, and that has to happen sometimes.
Have you ever told anyone off before to be like, look, man, you're just not welcome here anymore?
No, we just tell our publishers to get rid of this.
Oh, okay, cool. Someone else handles it.
We'll message our publisher, and then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, we'll look, and then someone's tapping them on the shoulder, and then like they have to go.
Okay, cool. That's cool.
Because we want to, we don't want to be assholes, so we want to be nice. Yeah. So yeah.
No, that makes sense. Is there any artists in particular that you found that you have really good synergy with that you go in the studio every time and it's like, oh, this works really well?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Like Leroy, the kid Leroy for sure. Like, as soon as we met him, it was a feeling of like almost like a long lost brother, because
cool.
like we were all in LA, all Australian, and it was just like instant. We just started making a bunch of stuff together, and it was all coming out good. Not all of it came out, but all of it was good, I think, so yeah, he's a legend. He's a good friend.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And is there any particular artists that have not really, you've like gone in there and you're like, I don't want to work with these people ever again? You don't have to answer this, by the way, if you don't want to.
I could say a couple, yeah,
Okay.
but a long time ago though, like maybe in like 2016 and 2010, like around that time.
Right.
Yeah, where it is like just not feeling the love, and the vibe is just awkward, and just they come off really arrogant and asshole. But we've found that honestly, like the bigger the artists we've worked with over the years has usually been the nicest.
Right.
Sometimes have been the either up and coming artist or the disgruntled type of artist that like for some reason hasn't blown up yet or popped off, and they're the ones with the attitudes. But then the big artists we've worked with have usually been like the nicest and like very loving and like welcoming, you know. So
Yeah.
which is kind of random to think, but it's been the case for a lot of situations.
Right. That's interesting to know. Like, it's good to see that even at the top, people are nice.
Yeah, no, for sure.
When you are obviously in the studio, like every other creative, you might experience creative block. And so do you have any tools and techniques that you guys particularly use to try to move past that? Does it ever happen like on a basis where where you really don't need it to? Because I'm assuming it's like a day-to-day thing where you're always working on something or the other, right? And so what happens when this comes up and you're like, I'm not sure what to do?
It doesn't happen that much. I remember a couple months ago, we had like a day where we only made one idea, and
That was one idea a day is crazy for us.
You
so
know,
it's- yeah.
but it
What
was
does
like,
the standard look like for you guys? Do
like
you have a-
8, maybe 8.
Yeah,
I don't know,
8
but-
to 10.
But it was like the end of the year. We were just like burnt out, and we just accepted it, and we were like, today was bad, and we just went home, and that's it. You know, like we don't really have a trick. You just kind of like accept it. You know.
In situations like that, where do you go to find inspiration? Do you just kind of like take rest, come back, and it's kind of reset the next day? Or
Yeah.
do you go out and try to find something to...
No, you take rest. Yeah, take
Yeah.
rest, and like, and then keep doing it.
When, sometimes maybe you're fried at that point, you know, like maybe
Yeah.
you've been in the studio or working on whatever it is too much every day, you know, and like, you know, everyone is all about like no days off, this and that, whatever, but it's like you also have to enjoy other things outside of the studio, you know.
That's actually something I really wanted to talk to you about. Like,
Yeah.
what does a work-life balance look like for someone like you guys who's constantly working on records and projects? And, you know, I feel like there's a lot of pressure because not only are you working with large artists, but then there's expectations that come with that as well. So how do you
Yeah.
balance that?
I mean, honestly, like going to the gym in the morning before work, always. And then also going for hikes on the weekend, like getting out with friends, like hanging with family when we can, when we're in Perth. And just like, but more so over there, just like doing things outside of the studio and non-music studio related things, you know? And I think just having that balance helps because you can lose your mind in the studio being in there too much. And there's times that we have to be in there because it's like a deadline or something to get done. But I feel like when we get to that burnt point, it's like, all right, let's call it for the night or maybe take like, you know, the weekend off or something. So, but yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, yeah.
So I also wanted to figure out, like, you know, growing up, you said you had obviously like your inspirations, like your Talib Kweli and so many different like, you know, rappers and producers. Is there anybody that still sticks to this day that you're like, I really wish to, like, are you still take inspiration from?
Oh, all the time.
Everyone, man, like even new people, and it's like, and we actually like met Timbaland recently.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
He called Zach, and you know it's a crazy story. I'm still pissed off to this day about it. Timbaland DM'd us on Instagram,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Here's my number, or like call me or something, whatever." And then no, he asked for our number, I think, and then you gave him
I don't know what happened. but-
your number, and then he called, I think, Zach early morning, like 7 a.m., like super early, and I think I was asleep, and then I woke up, and Zach was like, I just spoke to Timbaland on the phone, and I was like, what? Oh my God, I missed the call,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
I mean, whatever. But you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
but it's been awesome.
No, you can't just say
See?
whatever, man.
See? Yeah, exactly. See how he is?
But no, it's been awesome. Like, and then we went out to Miami to meet up with him, and we worked in a camp that he was running, and he was like, man, you guys are sick. Like, he's like really showed a lot of respect, and like he's been such a big influence on us, you know, growing up, just that era, and like and continuing. It's just one example, but and it's sick. We still look up to like, and we keep our ear to like what's happening. You know what I mean? There's so
Yeah.
many people that are making awesome stuff, and we get inspired all the time by that. Yeah.
I think, inspiration from like the old, like, you know, from the producers from like, you know, the 2000s and 90s or 80s and that. I mean, even one crazy thing is like looking up to DJ Premier.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite producers of all time, easily top 3. We met him, I met him when he came to Groove FM when I was like 15 years old, and had him on our radio show, which was insane for me. And then last year, we had, was it the year before last, we had produced a song on Drake's album featuring J. Cole. Was it Evil Eyes?
Yep.
Yeah, and
Evil
DJ,
Ways, Evil Ways.
Sorry, Evil Ways. And and DJ Premier played it on his radio show and then tagged us on Instagram. And I couldn't believe like that he was playing our song and this and that. Then I messaged him back and I was like, man, I remember meeting you in like 2002 in Perth, and I sent him the photo and I was like a 15-year-old little short kid, had like an Echo beanie on, little chain on and stuff, and he literally was like, man, I remember that day, that's so crazy, and he was like, man, keep on killing it, and I was like, just to hear that from him, yeah, it was awesome.
That must have been incredible.
Yeah, that was a really good feeling. But like Zach said though, but honestly, we're even always up like checking on new producers on SoundCloud. Like we've discovered so many guys that we work with from just like fishing on SoundCloud and like YouTube, and then we'll reach out to them to work and stuff. So we've always got like our ear to like hear the next generation or the next crazy shit.
So, you know, you guys have already stacked up so much stuff over the last few years. I believe it was 9 Grammy nominations?
Yeah, it was, the year before last was I think around 9, right?
Yeah, 9 Grammy nominations. Incredible, firstly. So what's going to be next for you guys? Like, what's the future look like for FNZ? Where would you guys like to take this? Because obviously you're on a really hot streak right now.
I'm going to keep the hot streak going, first of all.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the first thing. And then we've always got our eyes open for like maybe people to sign, or maybe sign an artist or something like that. But we're not going to force it. If it happens organically, that could be really awesome, like a really cool thing to do. And yeah, just keep pushing, man. Just keep making really good stuff that we really love, and yeah, just keep going. That's it.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, just doing what we have been doing in terms of working with those artists, but then moving in different areas. Like we started recently working on a little bit more of the Korean pop, like K-pop.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, we worked with Lisa from Blackpink recently.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And like just to work in like, you know, just move in different areas. And like we started working with Mark Ronson last year, doing a lot of stuff with him, and just like spreading our, you know, broadening our wings in different areas as opposed to just doing what we have been doing, you know, and trying to reach new heights. So.
Yeah. Did you ever find, like, you know, you've been making hip hop for so long, like, have you ever tried, like, I want to try something else? Like, has it ever come to a point where you're like, I want to try something of a different vibe?
I think one, for an example, is like when we started working with Mark last year, he was asked to do the Sabrina Carpenter Espresso remix.
Oh, yeah.
And he brought us in on that and like gave us like the alley-oop to start working on it. And that was like, you know, it's one of the biggest pop songs of last year.
Yeah, massive.
Not really in the same space as the stuff that we're known for and working on. But we understood the assignment, you know, and we're like, all right, let's fucking kill this shit. And, you know, we like flipped it into this like real club sort of like funky disco tune. And that's like, you know, music that we've always been really fans of, but we haven't been in the right, having the right opportunities to sort of express that, you know. So, and it was really fun to do that because like, man, we like making different types of shit, so.
Outside of hip hop, do you guys take any inspirations musically?
Oh, I mean, yeah, beyond hip hop, I mean, everywhere.
Yeah, like we'll be cruising around Perth, like listening to like classical music and stuff like that, or whatever, like anything that we like, you know, we feel like we could use. And I just wanted to add to the last thing. After we DJ'd at the Bird, we were like, you know what? This is kind of sick. We want to do some more stuff like that. And now we're DJing this Grammys after party.
Just casually.
Yeah. So like.
Shout out the Bird, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the Bird to the Grammys.
Yeah, we're gonna keep that going as well. Like do stuff like that, and who knows, like put our own stuff out one day, whatever. Like, you know, that could be a thing too.
Yeah, that's
you know?
another thing I actually wanted to ask. Like, are you guys interested in kind of putting forward your like something of like this is FNZ, nobody else?
It's always been like an interest that's been there, but it's just a time thing because our schedule. You know, we're just working with so many artists. It's hard to put that time aside and you know, put that time into something that we're proud of. It's gonna take a while, you know.
Sure. Yep.
So it's there, but we're gonna play it by ear. Yeah.
Just to add to that, yeah. That's all I got.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you a bit more about your technical and non-technical work that you guys get up to as well. Like you said, using Ableton these days.
Yeah, both Ableton.
Yeah, and then so do you have any particular plugins, VSTs and stuff that you like abuse or anything that you really like to work with?
Yeah, I'd say like a staple would be like the Fab Filter stuff.
Yep.
Fuck.
More so for effects and EQs and things like that. Like we're always, especially when we're flipping samples, we're always, besides affecting them, we're also EQing because of like songs from the old 60s or 70s or 80s, like these little spikes and like resonance keep hitting and stuff, you know? So it's like constantly EQing. But I mean, plugins like the Sonic Charge stuff, Permu 8, Echo Bode, awesome plugins. Trying to think what else that we've been.
We could keep it pretty basic, man.
Yeah. We've got a million plugins. Like we've literally got just about every plugin under the sun, but like we find the ones that work for us, and just use those. You know.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For reverb and all that. It's always a classic.
And are you guys, how do you go about the industry business side of stuff? Because making music is one thing, but then obviously like managing like the whole business side of things, being, self-managed versus having like publishing and an agent and all the other side of things. Like, how do you guys navigate that?
Yeah.
It's funny you should ask that because we are self-managed, which is actually pretty rare. We had a manager for about 5 years, and then we just felt like, we felt like it wasn't the right situation, so we moved away from that. And yeah, we've been self-managed for since 2019. I think.
2019.
Yeah, since 2019. And I think it's quite doable actually for producers. If you're an artist, it's different because you got so many things you need to worry about, and they need to really handle a lot. You know what I mean? But with production, it's like you have, you produce a song for an artist. There's really like a couple things you need to worry about. It's like, what's the publishing going to be? What are the points going to be? What's the advance going to be? Those 3 points, we can figure that out, and then we relay that to our attorney, and she handles the rest. So it's pretty doable. Yeah, I think.
I think the biggest misconception is everyone believing that they need to have a manager. And I think with a few producers we've spoken to in the States, like up and coming guys and that, asking us, being like, do I need a manager and this and that? It's like, man, you got to be working and creative and make the shit and have the right hustle and that. But the most important thing we've found as well on top of that is having a really good lawyer attorney. Because that, like, at the end of the day is going to be helping, discuss your splits and your publishing splits and your royalties and everything. And that's what it comes down to in terms of when you're going to be earning off of that song, So I think, having a great attorney.
Yeah, great attorney. And so most attorneys, you can actually lean on them for advice as well because they have so many clients, they've seen so many situations, and you can ask them, like, what do you think about this? And they'll be like, most of the times in this situation, someone would accept this much or someone would push for this, push for more or whatever. They have a lot of, insight, so, yeah.
Yep. What is the role of Pulse in your whole scenario? Like, you said you had Ashley, I believe?
Ashley, is our point person there, and she's like the vice president?
She's the president. Shout out Ashley.
Yeah, shout out Ashley.
She's great.
Yeah, she's literally the best. Yeah, like any idea that we have or an artist or person we want to work with, she will start brainstorming and then figure out how to put all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Right.
And just to add in there, we actually went, when we parted ways with Jim Johnson, that deal, I believe, was up in, was that 2019?
2018.
2018. And then, so we actually went years unpublished. And that was an idea of ours that was a strategic thing because we're like, we don't want to sign another deal until we get all these big songs and placements and things under our belt, and then we can get the deal that we want, So it went literally years for us without a manager and a publishing company. It was literally the two of us just making the craziest shit we can. And then that led to meeting Leroy and then learning, getting our first Kanye songs and then to Drake and this and that. And that was like no manager, no publishing company at that time.
And then we did a deal after that.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Cool. And how do you guys go about, obviously using samples and stuff? Clearance, how does that work for you guys?
We don't do that. That happens. That's like the label has to handle that. We work with the artist and the artist label. That's their responsibility because they own the song.
So there's a lot of just like creative freedom on your end to just do whatever you can, and then everything else follows on somebody else to kind of make that happen,
but,
right?
We'll all be affected at the end of the day because the publishing will be reduced for everyone involved.
Yep.
But in terms of the actual clearance, we don't have to.
Yeah, every label has like a clearance team to handle all that sort of stuff,
Cool.
So, we'll just sample whatever we feel is going to make the craziest shit, and then when, let's say such and such artist wants to use this beat that we did or this idea, then the label will reach out and be like, what's the, who is the artist and the song that you sampled and this and that, and we send the timestamps and everything, and then they get their clearance team to clear it. And it can take, weeks for them to clear something sometimes. Drake's cleared stuff that we've done with him, go and find the original sample from the 70s literally within like 2 days.
Wow.
Which is insane to even for that even to happen, but it happens. So, yeah.